I humiliated my husband in front of our friends for the sake of a laugh. The way he responded, quiet, controlled, and ice-cold, ended our marriage right then and there. For a long time, I believed that actions caused real damage, not words. Words, I thought, were fleeting, just noise that faded once the room went silent. That night shattered that belief. A few careless sentences can undo years of love in seconds. My name is Sarah. I was married to Caleb for 7 years. He's the kind of man who keeps things to himself, calm, dependable, steady like an anchor. Not the loud or attention-grabbing type, but the kind of person whose presence makes you feel secure without even noticing it. Looking back, maybe that quiet reliability is what I took for granted. I grew too comfortable, too used to the safety he provided. It happened during a Friday night dinner with friends in Boise. There were 4 couples gathered around the table, surrounded by laughter, drinks, and stories that had been told a dozen times before. Eventually, the conversation shifted, as it often does, to relationships, filled with teasing remarks about who's really in charge. I remember holding my glass, smiling as everyone's attention turned toward me. That subtle thrill of being the center of the moment crept in. "Sarah, you're the lucky one," Mia said with a grin. "Caleb's basically perfect. I don't think I've ever seen him lose his temper. And that's when I crossed the line." I laughed and said, "That's because he's less like a husband and more like my second kid." The table burst into laughter. It felt good in that instant. The approval, the attention, the sense of being the one who made everyone laugh. Even Mia joined in. To everyone else, it was just harmless teasing. But Caleb didn't react. He didn't smile or speak. He simply looked down at his plate, completely still. To anyone else, he might have seemed calm, but I recognized that silence. It wasn't peace. It was restraint, the kind that comes just before something gives way. I noticed it and ignored it. I told myself it was nothing serious, just a joke. The evening continued, but Caleb barely said a word. When others joked, with him he offered polite, distant smiles, never fully engaging. Later, while people discussed travel plans, he finally spoke. "You're right, Sarah," he said evenly. "Sometimes it does feel like I'm just another one of your children, especially since I seem to be the only one here who still acts like an adult." The room fell completely still. Glasses touched the table with soft clinks as conversations died mid-sentence. My chest tightened instantly. He hadn't raised his voice, but his tone cut through everything. Calm, precise, and impossible to ignore. For a brief moment I considered brushing it off, pretending we were still joking. But the way he looked at me stopped me cold. My throat went dry. In that instant, I realized something had shifted. The man I thought would always stay quiet had finally spoken up. The drive home was suffocating. No music, no conversation, just silence pressing in from all sides. Streetlights flickered across his face as he stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched. I kept searching for the right words, but everything I thought of sounded wrong before I could say it. When we pulled into our driveway on Maple Street, he stepped out without waiting. I followed him inside, my pulse racing. "Caleb," I said gently, "you know I didn't mean it like that. It was just a joke." He didn't face me. "A joke?" he repeated, his voice quiet as he hung up his coat. "You humiliated me in front of everyone, and now it's a joke?" I exhaled, trying to keep things from escalating. "People tease their partners all the time. You're taking this too seriously." Then he turned toward me. His eyes, normally warm and kind, looked exhausted. "No, Sarah," he said. "This didn't start tonight. You've been doing this for a long time. The only difference is that tonight, I finally said something." The weight of his words hit harder than I expected. I tried to respond, but nothing came out. He walked past me into the living room and sat down heavily, as if the night had drained years from him. Do you know what's ironic? He said after a pause. I listen to you tell stories about our life like you're the only one in it. I'm always the joke, the absent-minded husband, the dull one, the guy who doesn't understand anything. And I let it happen because I thought it made you happy. My chest tightened painfully. Caleb, He cut me off, his voice low but firm. Tonight made something clear. You don't respect me anymore. You just like how people react when you put me down. My stomach twisted. That's not true, I said, tears forming. I love you. You know that. He shook his head slowly. No. You love the version of me who stays quiet, the one who doesn't challenge you so you can stand out. The silence that followed was unbearable. For the first time, I truly saw it. How often he had minimized himself for my sake. How many times he had endured it with a smile. He hadn't wanted conflict. That realization stung more than anything else. He stood, looked at me one last time, and said, I think we need time apart. I need to figure out who I was before I became a joke. Then he walked into the guest room and closed the door gently behind him. It was the softest, most final goodbye I'd ever experienced. The days after that felt empty. I went through my routine, work, errands, meals, but everything felt heavier, like something fundamental had shifted. Caleb barely spoke. We lived in the same house, but it felt like we existed in separate realities. At night, I could hear him moving around in the guest room, slowly packing his belongings. Each small sound made my chest ache. I wanted to fix things, to say something meaningful, but guilt kept me silent. Every apology I thought of felt inadequate. A week later, I came home to find that he was gone. Half of the closet was empty. The faint trace of his cologne lingered, like something refusing to disappear completely. On the kitchen table, he had left a note, neatly written, calm, almost too polite. Sarah, I spent years trying to laugh with you, but somewhere along the way, it turned into you laughing at me. Maybe it wasn't intentional, but it still hurt. I don't hate you, and I don't wish anything bad for you. I just need peace, the kind that doesn't require pretending everything is okay. Take care of yourself. Caleb, I read it over, and over again. There was no anger in it, no blame, just quiet disappointment. Somehow, that hurt more than if he had shouted. For days, I replayed that dinner in my mind, the laughter, his expression, the silence afterward. I kept telling myself it was harmless, but deep down, I knew better. It wasn't just one moment that broke us. It was the pattern, the subtle insults, the jokes at his expense, the times I chose attention over kindness. I had made him feel small, so I could feel noticed. One evening, I went to his brother's place in Meridian to return his watch. Caleb opened the door. He looked different, calmer, lighter somehow. He didn't ask me to come inside, and I didn't expect him to. I read your note, I said softly. You were right. I stopped respecting you without even realizing it. He gave a small nod, not unkind, but distant. I hope you learn not to do that again, to anyone who cares about you. That was the last time I saw him. Months later, I still catch myself stopping mid-laugh, suddenly aware of how easily humor can turn into harm. And when people ask what happened to my marriage, I tell them the truth. I confused love with tolerance. Because sometimes the most painful thing you can do to someone isn't betrayal. It's making them feel small while they're standing right beside you.